Good evening. This is the ASCA Board of Directors meeting for August 8th, 2019. Present today are Cindy, Denise, Jean, Judy, Ken, Rachel, Rick, myself, Liz, and also with us are our new elected directors, Jan and Pete. If you are listening for the first time, the way we do this is for every item, we go around to give every director an opportunity to um, speak and share their opinions. And then if there's a need, we do a motion and vote. So our first item for this open session is last month's email business.
This is Rachel, Liz. I make a motion to approve last month's email business. That would be for July 2019.
Cindy, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Rachel, seconded by Cindy, to approve the July email business. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item is the system report. Rachel.
I'm actually going to go back to the 729 update that Ray sent us, which had some descriptive items in it regarding impediments. The litter lease corrections. It was not allowing people to see the pending signatures associated with the registration, and so they followed up on that, and that was one of the impediments that has been corrected. And on the individual dog ownership, for some reason an owner was not always showing up in ADMS on a dog, but was showing up in our portal. So they worked and got that corrected. And they were working on getting the sanctioning dates changed to 60 days for all events. So that was what they were doing from 729. This week, the major business is updating ADMS, which is the old system, to work on the latest version of Windows so that we can transition easier when the time comes. And to that point, that's what's major right now. Miguel from Inventive is going to work on giving us some numbers for the database switch when the time comes, realizing that it's going to be his best estimate at this time. And we're still any bugs that come up, we still throw those over to Inventive. So that's where we are right now currently. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, then that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. The next item is a continuing discussion on the DNA labs. I think now from the email discussion that I saw a little while ago, that I guess Certogen is actually being added to the mix. Is that correct? I'm assuming this correctly, that it's not just for transition, it's actually for having Certogen as a lab. So I guess we need to clarify that. I guess I would ask Rick.
It's already a lab, so.
No, what I mean is, like, we had talked about using Certogen if it, when breaking from Therion to his Certogen, for the transition. But some of the discussion led me to believe that we're actually now considering using them like permanently, or did I miss something?
Liz, I know this is Rick.
Rick, yeah.
From what I understand, I don't believe that Certogen was intended to be a permanent solution. I believe it was a transition period while we're discussing which labs to go to. They use our same markers. It's an easy transition. So, I mean, yes, it could be a permanent situation. I don't know that I see it as a viable one, being that it's over in Europe, and I don't know that that's what we, the U.S. members, want to do business with a European country. I'm not saying that that's not the best interest in ASCA, but I saw it as a step in between us finding a new provider here in the U.S.
Okay, well, thanks. I just saw some of that, and so I was a little confused about what was going on with that, because I knew we were discussing Surgeon as a transition lab. But like I said, I got a little bit confused. So I don't know. I guess I'm going to go around and see where we're at with this. Last time that we, from the email discussion, it seems like UC Davis was ahead in the way that we actually use the rubric and rank them. So I guess we should see if this is still the case, if there are more questions that we have, and so that we can make this, very important decision sometime soon. I'm not sure that we're as rushed to get the actual lab picked, like right now. But I think we need to start getting to a final decision here. So anyway, I'm going to go around. Cindy.
My pros on Certigen for a transition lab would be that we can maintain our a smooth transition. They're using our markers, access to our database, and we can maintain VP status during the transition. The cons I see on Certigen is that in their contract, any disputes are settled in a European court. That might never happen and be a problem, but it might be a major problem. My choice as a lab to eventually move to would be paw prints, because customer service is a big issue, and we've already trusted them to do multi-sired litters for us where there were problems. They've proven they can do it, and they've already proven that they're with work they have done for our members, and that their presence at our nationals, that they value us as a customer. We're not just one of many. That's, and that they do specialize just in canines. So, yeah, other labs have some of the pros and cons to me, but those are the kind of where I'm leaning toward, is Surgeon work out the transition, and because the customer service, and that they've already proven that they have resolved issues for us, is paw prints. I'm set.
Okay, Denise.
I think Cindy summed up the Certigen as a temporary, temporary lab until we decide for sure where we want to go permanently is a good idea. I think that's good. Everything she said, I totally agree with. I'm up in the air between paw prints and University Davis on the other, but we can talk more about that later. But I think we should probably do the Surgeon in the meantime in order to have a little bit more time to make a decision on that.
Okay, Jean?
I agree that I think Certigen is a viable candidate for our interim lab for all ASCA members. And of course, I'm assuming we would continue to use them for anybody who wants to continue using them as they do now as we move forward. The reason for me, paw print rated higher than UC Davis, and we like Davis. That's where my husband got his new hip, but that wasn't at the vet school. Thank God. Paw print, almost everything is about the same, except for paw print pays for the shipping for all the samples in the United States. They accept all types of samples, so including tails, blood, this, that, and the other, where UC Davis only uses the brushes, which is, that's not a bad thing necessarily. It just limits how people can collect the samples. While UC Davis is cheaper on the initial, they're cheaper on their sample cost. Their customer service is zero. It's the same situation or the same agreement that we have with Therion, which is members cannot connect with Therion directly. They always have to go through the office, which adds a layer to the office, and it adds a layer to the whole situation. One of the things about paw print, as Cindy mentioned, their customer service is like their big seller, and they're good at it. They're at nationals every year. They do some of the other genetic testing, and so they have a very good reputation with our members, which is a good thing. And quite truthfully, both entities keep up on the research and technology because it behooves them to. I also might feel that UC Davis, we might get lost in the shuffle a little bit because they're primarily a vet school, that their focus is not doing DNA and genetic testings for dogs specifically, whereas the whole paw prints model is based on doing this. So that's why, for me, paw prints ranks higher than UC Davis. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Judy?
Jean pointed out some very good points. My personal thing, though, is I would rather see us go with a publicly held lab or corporation rather than a privately held, because I don't want to see us get back into the same situation that we had with Therion. One of the things I like about UC Davis is they already have a working relationship with Certigen. So it is possible something can be worked out eventually so that all of our stuff is in the same place, so to speak. For the meantime, I think Certigen is a viable alternative. And I personally believe that when we give Therion notice, we're going to get nothing out of them again. They will have no reason to work with us or do anything really to help us out. Certigen, however, we can, and since most of their stuff is done through cheek swabs, there is no storage problem, no blood contamination. We don't have to worry about keeping things cold. It can all be shipped, and their price is already way less than what we're paying ASCA for the kits. So I think that's a viable alternative for now. Thank you.
Ken?
Well, I definitely believe there's a set course of action that we should follow as far as choosing which lab. I think that our near 30 years experience with 2 private labs has indicated that we should not go down that road again. I really do support UC Davis and that it's an open teaching university
and I'm not quite sure. All ASCA needs is to do parentage testing, so we don't need to worry about SNPs. STRs are sufficient. Customer service, really there's not much need for customer service when the registry is only asking for parentage to be verified. And I think that we're placing way too much emphasis on people needing to call the laboratory and ask about parentage verification. So I think what's most important is that we make use of open source markers instead of all these privately held markers that we've done in the past, and that the company is making certain that they follow best practices, are certifying themselves since there is no outside certification agency. And it's just an open organization with a track record. So basically what I think we really need to do to accomplish all this for ASCA's program for the registry is we currently have an agreement with Therion, who's providing service along with Surtigen. And I think that we should use our termination option with Therion, which is by the end of this month, we indicate that we wish to cease using their services. So there's a 1-year transition period. We'll just have to see how that goes. But in the meantime, since Surtigen is already using the markers that we have, and it's important to some people to keep the VP process going. And since they're the only lab that can right now test multi-sired litters for us, as our registry rules allow for, we have to use Surtigen to do our multi-sired litters. And as I said, I think we need to use UC Davis and Surtigen to provide service to our European members. And we need to just focus on STRs and focus on doing parentage verification for our registry purposes. That's what I think that we should do, and that's what I could support.
Thanks, Ken. Rachel?
Yes, ma'am. I do agree with Ken. I think we need to give notice to Therion by the end of this month that they have 1 year of continued business with ASCA. But before we do that, we need to determine where the samples can be moved and how they can be moved, because I am very concerned that once we give notice to Therion that those samples may disappear. I have no faith in those folks' ability to render any kind of good customer service or partnership with ASCA. They've shown none in the past, and I do not expect them to show any in the future. So before we give them notice, we seriously need to consider how we're going to move those samples and to what, even if it's a temporary storage solution, where they can be moved to. Okay, that's it with Therion. I support UC Davis for many reasons. And Jean said, well, they only use brushes. Well, their additional collection type is EDTA blood and blood cards at no charge. So that is still an option with UC Davis if members would feel more comfortable with that. And there is no charge for it. And they are actually working towards their ISO 17025 accreditation. That might not mean anything to a lot of folks, but it means something to me. Having worked in industries where ISO certification, it determines that you do things in the same manner each time, each way, so that the results are going to be similar. And the other reason, it's a teaching college, and it will not be sold or consolidated. They have been and will continue to provide DNA services to all types of animals, which makes them a stable source for DNA services. They will update DNA services as the protocols are updated to stay at the forefront of DNA applications. And because they're a teaching college, they must do that. And another really, really good reason to support UC Davis is they already have a working business relationship with Surtigen. So it should be a seamless transfer back and forth for European members or U.S. members if we use Certigen as a stopgap. And as a public institution, they must conduct business with their customers in a business-like manner. And I really don't have a point. I mean, I don't have a problem with ASCA being the point of contact. It is now and has been all these years, because that could put a stop to issues that results from, well, he said, she said, or I got this email or this or that. That just stops all that. And if at any point in time the ASCA business office, just like currently, sees the need to involve the member, they willingly do that to clarify the situation. So that's my reason for supporting UC Davis, and that is also my reason for supporting Certigen in the meantime. Thank you.
Okay, Rick.
Yeah, I also chose UC Davis for the very reasons that Rachel and Ken have mentioned. What I'm very unsure of is this Therion deal. I do think that we need a 1-year transition, and that is it. I think by September 1st, we need to send them a cease and desist letter that what our plans are. But I have also asked Chuck for nearly 2 weeks now for an answer regarding what ASCA's outcome is regarding Therion. I do feel that their service to us is going to decrease as soon as we let them know. It's not very good now, but I think it's really going to go in the tanks once we let them know. We need to know from Chuck what recourse we have about getting our samples back. What we can do, we can send them a letter, but just like we've done before, it took 3 months for them to respond to us. I can see this happening again. They'll push this back until we miss that September 1st deadline, and then we're on the hook with them again. So we really need legal counsel to advise the board on how we're going to get these samples back. If we don't get them back, what's our recourse? But that needs to be done now. And I've asked, and I realize that he's been in depositions all week, but that does not relieve our legal counsel of his duties that he's representing ASCA. We need answers, and we need answers now. This is unacceptable for our legal counsel to keep putting us up because he's in depositions with something else. He still owes us his time. And that's what I'm uncomfortable with, is we give them a 1 year's notice as of September 1st, and we can't get our stuff back. And I really feel like Therion is not going to be playing above the board, and I don't think that they're worried about ASCA. Like I said, we sent them a demand letter for 3 months, and we never got a response back. We don't matter to them, and that's what bothers me the most. So I'm hoping we can get some answers to this, but I do believe that Certigen is a stopgap. We can use their services until we transition to UC Davis or transition to Paul Prince. Honestly, I could go either way because I think both would do us a great job, but I actually chose UC Davis. But I hope that, Liz, you can put some pressure on Chuck, because I can see Therion pushing this thing out past September 1st, and then we're on the hook again. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Jan and Pete here in a minute, but let me say this first. I agree with you, Rick, and I'm very afraid of what's gonna happen once this notice is given. And so I have tried to work in my head, how we can do this. I've tried, I wrote the motion because I figured, well, at least there's something that we can discuss and I pulled it today, but the thing about it is, I'm not sure, like Rick just said, that we have all the legal dots where they're supposed to be. We don't know what we're doing really, and so that's why when I received Chuck's email telling me that he had been in depositions and all that, and then he doesn't feel like breach of contract is something that we can get legally behind. That's when I decided, well, then the best thing for the board to do is stop this email business with Chuck and just have a meeting with him, because I think that we all have questions, and I think that that's the best way to get them answered. This email back and forth is just gonna put us more behind because it takes longer. And so I'll let you know what because I suggested next Tuesday or next Thursday. So I'll let you guys know when I get something from him. But I think, I don't know if you guys agree, but I think that talking with him on a teleconference is a much better way to get this done finally, than continuing the email stuff.
Liz, this is Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel.
Could I ask that we also include David Schleifer, our new attorney, in that meeting, because he may possibly be the one to have to clean up after the fact.
That's true. Yeah, we could ask him.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Liz, for pushing that forward and trying to get all together with Chuck on this so that we're all on the same page and we all have some input to what he has to say. And I think David being there is a good idea too. Good job.
Yeah, I just, yes, Ken.
I just wanted to make a suggestion. I've heard some people say some things, and I'm thinking that we are concerned about the stored samples, and we have learned that they've been refrigerated for a very long time. I think what we need to do immediately is determine the viability of those stored samples. We may not have to move them if they can't reproduce DNA. So I think that we should immediately secure some of the oldest, some of the middle held, and some of the most recent samples and test them and see just how viable they are. If it comes back that they're not viable, we don't have to worry about the samples. So, and maybe.
Okay, so I'm gonna put. Hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna put my scientist hat here for a moment. That would be a viable way to do that, but it doesn't answer the question of whether they're all viable or not. And so you're gonna have members who probably will argue that we really shouldn't be getting rid of them if theirs has not been tested. Okay, so that's one of the obstacles that I see about that. There is no way unless we tested them all, and that's virtually impossible. Not impossible, it would take a long time and a lot of money. To test every sample, we can't make a decision on just, on batch here, a batch here, a batch there. I don't think the membership is going to be very happy about that. But I think what we have to look at is, at least, like Rachel said, at least temporarily find a solution to store them elsewhere if this thing goes sideways with Therion. There are companies that do that kind of stuff. And since they're refrigerated and those refrigerators are ours, I guess I can try to do some research on this, and Ray will have to help me. And see, since the refrigerators are ours, maybe we can just take the whole refrigerators with us, have a company pick them up and store them. I'm not sure. So this is something that really needs to be researched well. And but yeah, it's a real concern of ours, I think. You know, so I'll try to do that, see if I can come up with something. I'm not sure how much I'll
Liz,
get
this
done
is
while here.
Rachel.
Yeah.
Can I speak again, please?
Yes, ma'am.
The level of my concern about Therion would almost prompt me to request that a executive member of the ASCA board and/or the office manager visit that site to determine actually how those samples are stored and the conditions in which they're stored. Because we can pick up refrigerators and move them across the country in refrigerated trucks, but that may not matter because the refrigerators, refrigerators don't like being moved. You know that.
Yeah, right.
So, right. And so you could go through all that. I think that we really need to understand how these samples are stored and look at the situation prior to trying to determine how we're going to move them and where they're going to move them to. Because I am so afraid that once we give notice to Therion, I just have no faith in them being good partners to ASCA still. They haven't been all these years, so that's my concern.
Yeah, and this issue about not knowing what the heck is going on over there, how they're stored, and all that stuff is something that I've been bringing up all this time. That we need to know exactly, and I've always wanted somebody to go over there and inspect the situation for them, and could come back to us with some kind of report on what the situation is. But
absolutely. That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah, but see, now we are against this deadline that really makes it difficult for us to get things done the way that they're supposed to be done. So I don't know how
think
quickly. Yeah.
I think that we could afford a plane ticket and send someone up there for just a day before the end of this month, before that decision has to be made. I think we could do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How close
I agree. Hopefully.
Ray would be nice. Since you're out of country and you're whatever, he's our business office manager. He has been in contact with Therion the entire time. He could write an analytical report back to the board.
Yeah. I can ask Ray and see it.
Let me ask a question though.
Yes, ma'am.
Cindy, how close are you?
I would drive, not fly.
I know you're not.
I don't know. I'd have to look and see. Pardon? I'd have to figure out how far it is.
Okay, well, let's do this.
It probably could be more than 8 hours driving.
Right. So why don't we do this? You go ahead and find out, figure out how far it is, whether it's feasible for you to go do it or not. And I'll, at the same time, I'll start talking to Ray and see if it's feasible for him to go, because we don't know also what his status is. So, and see if we can get somebody there. Yeah.
And maybe the both of them end up there together.
Yeah, that will be fine with me. But so yeah, let's do that.
Cindy.
Let's do that and see if we can do that. Now, I'm not sure what kind of reception you're gonna have when you are, actually over there. And I don't know if if it was me, I would do it unannounced, but that's just me. Probably.
No, that's exactly how I would do it. No, that's exactly how I would do it too.
Yeah. So let's do the logistics on that and see what we can do, because it has to be done like pretty soon. And then next week we hopefully have our meeting with Chuck and make sure we know on what legal ground we're standing. and we can take
They're
it
in
forward from
Saratoga.
there. I mean,
Cindy, they're in Saratoga Springs, New York.
Saratoga Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Golly, it's a long time since I've been there, but it's sort of up near some of the shows we used to go to for Wisconsin, so it can't be that far.
yeah. Okay. Because obviously after we talk to Chuck, this is probably going to have to go on an emergency motion. And so, like I said, we need to get all our ducks in a row before we actually send the notice. So yes, let's do it. I'm sorry, Jan. I'm sorry. You have something to say? Jan?
Oh, sorry. There you go.
You
I
have
agree
anything
with
you want to
Rick.
say?
I did want to add a few things. Rick and Rachel and Ken all expressed many of the same things I was concerned with. I have very low feelings about Syrian, what service we're going to get out of them when we send this notice. So make sure we have a good backup, and I believe we should be communicating with Centrogen now so that we have a good backup that doesn't change anything for any of our members. One of the major steps, and probably before that, is what we're going to do with the samples. And that needs to be taken care of, and I would agree with somebody going and looking at them and figuring out how to move them as quickly as possible. If they're really in refrigerators, there might be places they could just go. I think the points that are really important about a new lab is that they are not proprietary markers, that they're open markers, and they've been accepted by ISAG. This would give us an opportunity to wait until the new markers come out, and so we would be on the latest technology if that's what we so choose. So Centrogen, I think we're also losing them as an opportunity to communicate with them of the direction that would help us to go in. As far as office versus customer service, that really is up to ASCA. With all the organizations that the DNA committee spoke with, it was cheaper if it went through an organization like ASCA, and that was the sole purpose, versus dealing with every one of the members. If they're dealing with the members, the cost was increased. And I believe that UC Davis has been around the longest, and they're a teaching hospital. I don't think they are going anywhere in this setup, and the working relationship with Centrogen would make everything go smoother going forward. So since I'm on the DNA committee, I guess I had a little more views on that particular subject. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Pete?
I'll keep mine short. UC Davis.
Thanks, Pete. Okay, so we have a direction to go, and hopefully we can have this meeting with Chuck next week so that we can finalize, our plan on this, and then see if we can visit Tyrion's site to see what the condition of the samples is, and I'll try to find out anything about, moving them and stuff, and see if I can get at least some general information on that. And then we should be able to make an emergency motion if we need to. All right. So I guess our last topic is the additional storage on the IO groups. Is Jean?
I didn't realize this was my topic.
I don't know. I'm calling on somebody. For
Okay,
the,
well,
I can take
the one with,
I mean, I think it's been agreed upon that we do need additional storage. I think for ease of searching, I would agree with Calla for sure that the board group needs to stay with allowing attachments. I guess what I want to do is see, I know there were different levels of storage that we could pay for, and there may be one that we can just pay a lump sum and allow everybody to keep doing their attachments. You know, some of the techie people don't feel that we should be doing that, but with the amount of emails that we tend to generate between all these things, sometimes unless things are filed correctly, it's easier to find them via the subject in an email than it is to try to search the files. So let me do some research on that tomorrow, and I'll get right back with you guys. And but we probably should make a motion to get more storage immediately for the board group, because that one's not going to change. We're going to want to have more storage for the board IO group, period. And that's all I have to say.
okay, so if I remember correctly, we had during email discussion kind of like gone for the, what was it, the $110 one?
It was
Do you think that that's
$199 per year for 10 Gs of storage.
okay?
Yeah.
And so you thought that was enough?
Yeah, I think that's going to be enough. So far, we've it took us about 18 months to use the 1G that we had provided, so it should take us, 10 years to use up the rest of this, and I think that we could kind of figure out if we needed to go further then.
Okay. All right. So so somebody wants to make a motion for
I have
this?
I have a quick question.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
Liz, just a quick question. Do we have the ability to remove stuff that's no longer effective?
Yes,
Anybody?
we do. Well, Pete, this is Jean. I don't know how easy it is to go into emails and remove attachments. I know that we did it a little bit on the Agility Committee. The issue that I see is that as a whole, ASCA is reluctant to get rid of files, period. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the ability to remove them. We do. But
I guess my question would have been better phrased had I. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that being said,
I probably should rephrase my question. Can we archive it and make space available? That's my question.
Archive it like on.
Yeah, I know we don't like to throw anything away. Believe me.
Yeah, archive it like on our server or on OneDrive or. I mean, obviously those are choices. In fact, that was one that I was kind of told that we should have been doing. But I know that when we tried to remove, until we figured out what the problem was, we were removing a bunch of stuff from the Agility list, and it didn't seem to free up that much room. It wasn't effective.
Okay.
So, but the ability is there.
I don't want to prolong this. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So is anybody going to make a motion, or do we table this?
Yeah, this is Rachel. I'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve the payment of $199 per year, which provides 10 G of storage for the groups, for the board's group IO.
Any second?
I'll second. I think the price is actually 110 is what I'm looking at.
I'm just looking at what Calla put in the agenda. Calla,
I thought it
could
was
you
100.
please- It said
How much is
to,
it, Carla?
I'm looking. It says it's $100 a month.
I've
for
got it open right now.
Oh, let's see. I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, it's $110 a year.
Okay. thank
okay,
you.
yeah, then that's per year, okay? This, on the agenda, it had 199 per year.
Well, it's 110.
Okay, so there's a
good.
motion on the floor. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor by Rachel, seconded by Jean, to pay $110 per year to have the 10 Gs of storage space for the board group. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, so this was the last item that we had on today's agenda. I appreciate everyone's cooperation, and it was a good discussion. And I guess we can just say bye. I'm tired,
Bye.
guys.
Enjoy your trip over there.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, Liz.